Okay, so today we're going to figure out how to do this zoom effect on your sample. First, we're going to start in a macro photograph, and then we're going to keep zooming in through optical microscope images or SEM images. So don't get confused by the layout. This program is very simple and easy to use. The first thing we're going to do is create a bin, and you create your bins over here. It starts you with this master, and then you could put bins inside of that. So here, anywhere inside your bins, you could just right click and click new bin. So I have a bin set up here called Zoom Tutorial. Once you're inside here, you need to create a timeline, and that timeline looks like this. It's this thing on the bottom here where you actually edit the clips. So once you click on your bin, you would go here and you'd go File, New Timeline. So I have a timeline set up called Zoom Tutorial. So this is what the timeline looks like. Now we need to import the photographs that we're going to use to create the zoom effect. So you just right click in this area here, you click on Import Media, and then go to wherever your media is stored. Now it's very important that you don't move the media once you import it, because let's say it's on your desktop and you use it to edit it while it's on your desktop, and then you move it into another folder to store it away. When you go to edit this file again, this video, it's going to give you a bunch of errors because that data has already moved. So wherever you plan on keeping your pictures and videos that you're going to edit permanently, leave them there. So we're going to import the 6K image and then the first image of the SEM. So we're just going to click open, and now we have these two images here. So we're going to bring the first image down, and the way you do that is you could either just drag it straight here. I have this here from earlier. So this is the effect, so we could just look at the effect, what it looks like. So you can see it sort of zooms in quickly on that next file. And then if you wanted to see altogether what the effect looks like, it looks something like this. Okay, so that's the idea. So today we're just going to go over one of these, how to do one, because it's just that process done again and again and again. And at the end, it's that process done backwards. You can see, zoom out quickly, backwards. So let's start off by looking at how to do the first one, from the macro to the first SEM image, like that. Going back to our timeline here, we're going to import the macro photograph. And what I'd like to do is, if you click I on your keyboard, you can see that creates an input here, and then you click spacebar, it goes for a little bit, stop, and then you click O, and now you've just trimmed a section of it. Then from here, I could just grab it and bring it down. Then if you click this little area and click delete, it'll bring you to the very front, or you can move it like this. To create cuts in your edit, you click on this blade tool, or you click B, and then once you cut it and you want to move things around, you click on this right here, or you click A, and you can move the clips around. So now we're going to start here, and then we're going to bring in our first SEM image. So if you double click up here, you can see what you're looking at. And again, I'm going to do the same thing, import, bring in a little bit of it, out, bring it down. So what I thought worked really well, and what I believe did work really well, was keeping each clip around 3 seconds in length. So I'm going to move this back a little bit, gives us some space to work. So this is your time here. You can see here goes 1 second, 2 seconds, and it's your time and then the frames. So it's 23 frames per second, and it's 1 second there. So then you have this is at the 2 second mark. Now we're going to go all the way to the 3 second mark. So this is at 3 seconds, and we're going to, if you want to drag this a little bit longer, you just go ahead and do that. The very edge just drags it open. Then here we're going to put this next to it. Make sure you have this snapping tool turned on. This is turned off, this is turned on. Make sure you have that turned on so that way it snaps in place when you have it right next to it. Then we're going to put this at 6 seconds. We're going to move our timeline to 6 seconds. Then if you use your keys, you could actually put it right at 6 seconds. And you could drag this open to 6 seconds. So now we have our clips the length that we want them, each 3 seconds. And you can see they're just static. They don't move anywhere. Now for this one, we want to get rid of these black bars here. So we're going to click on it. And actually, we're going to zoom out a little bit. If you click on fit, you can see exactly what you're looking at up here. And then you can zoom out a lot fit and is exactly what you would be looking at, these black bars. You would see that in the actual final video. So what I want to do is I want to click on this, make sure this is highlighted orange, and then zoom in. So I want those black bars gone. Right around there. Perfect. So now our image takes up the entire frame. Just like here, our image takes up the entire frame. So I have this effect where it starts zooming in slightly. So you can see here, it starts zooming in slightly before it escalates. And then this keeps zooming in slightly. I just like the motion of that. I think it's a nice look. So before we do the zoom in effect, we're going to zoom in slightly for both of these. Also, I found that this zoom effect works best from the 20th frame to the 23rd frame, and then it changes to the next one when that second is over. So it's basically those frames from the 20th to the 23rd. So essentially what we do here is, you can see we start off zooming slow, and then right when it cuts, when this cut is here, you can see that this is a different clip. We'll do it very slowly so you can kind of get an idea. It zooms in quickly, and it matches what that next image is going to be. So you can see here that the SEM image is of this. So I zoomed from here and I matched it as best as possible, my macro image to the SEM one. So you can see how it's both looking at the same thing, and it's trying to match it as closely as possible. And then you put in what's called a crossfade right here. We'll get to that in a second. But you put in a crossfade to sort of make it a smoother transition. And then from here, it just keeps going slowly and smoothly until it's time for the next transition into the next layer, the next SEM image that's a little closer. So we're going to go here, and we're going to just zoom it in closer. But before we do that, let's cut off what we need to. So remember, at the 20th frame, that's where I like to cut it off, right here. So now we have that as a separate clip, right? So here, we're going to click on this, make sure that's highlighted in orange. And then under this transform section, we're going to click this button here. Okay? And what that does is say, at this time, I want this to look like this. Then, at this time, we're going to have it zoomed in a little bit. So that way it creates the effect of zooming in. So make sure this is highlighted. And then at the 19th frame, that's where we're going to be. So you want to be at this 19th frame. And you can see how we're zooming in a little bit. So you just want to zoom in a little bit, and also probably go up as well. So you can see position. You could change the position. We're going to change the Y position. Put it up a little bit. We could also move this just by moving it around with our mouse. Or we could use these here. So now we have the two keyframes, and it would look something like this. You can see how it's zooming in a little bit slowly, giving that sort of zoom look, that zoom effect, very soft. And then we'll make that fast transition. But before we do that, we're going to do the same thing here. So click here, make sure you're on the first frame of the second image. Click on this node here and transform. And then we're going to cut at the 20th, because remember, we have to do the transition there as well for the next one. And then we're going to go back, click on this, make sure this is highlighted orange, go to the 19th frame, and then softly zoom in. Softly zoom in. So now that would create this look. See how it's softly zooming in. So here we have it softly zooming in. Here we have it softly zooming in. And we're ready to create the transition from this one to this one. So the first thing you want to do is, in the 20th frame, make sure you click on this clip, make sure that's highlighted in orange, and click on this transform node to say, at this point in time, I want this position. Then we're going to come here, and we're going to come to the 23rd frame, the last frame in this sequence, in this clip. And we're going to zoom in basically to match this to the next frame. So we're going to look, and we're going to keep zooming. And then you could use your keys to move to the next one to see how closely lined up you are. So it's like, okay, we got a little work to do. We got to keep zooming in. Keep zooming. And then you could just transition back and forth to say, okay, how close are we? Are we too zoomed? Are we not zoomed enough? So actually, that looks pretty good. I think we're probably still a little bit to the right. So we're going to move this a little bit this way. A little bit this way, and that looks pretty good. That looks kind of close, like pretty on the money. So what we're gonna do first is, so now you can see it does that quick zoom, but it looks funny, right? It looks kind of weird. What we need is we need a zoom blur. So you go ahead and put a zoom blur there in that clip, and so you can see how it created that little zoom blur. Then go to this effects section, and I've been having a good luck going to 0.5. I really like the look of the 0.5 one. But now it still is like a little choppy, right? So it looks like it's getting there, but it's a little choppy because of that sharp random transition. You can see how it just transitions sharply. So we need to cross dissolve. And by the way, this zoom blur is in this open FX tab. Now we're going to go to the video transitions tab. And if you don't see these, you can click on effects up here. Click on this effects and this should pop up. So now we're going to go to these video transition and we're going to go to cross dissolve. And we're just going to put it here. And then go ahead and if it gives it to you a little bit wider, just make it as narrow as possible. And that should be good. Just click on it. And you can see how you go from sort of this slow burning zoom. And then you go a quick zoom like that, nice and smooth, right into the next image. And then of course, if you wanted to, you could add a whoosh sound. So I went to YouTube and I got some sounds. Some whoosh sounds so you could hear it. Whoosh. And you could bring that over. Put that there. And what I have here at the top, you see those little dissolves. Those are just sort of easing the sound in and easing the sound out so it doesn't sound choppy or disjointed. So you kind of get a look. And sometimes it takes a second to load up. The system is working, so if you see it choppy, don't worry, it'll export perfectly fine. Maybe your computer's a little slower, or maybe it's still rendering. So let's take a look at it. Yeah, there you go, perfect. So now the whole thing. And that's great. And then you would just do this again and again and again. We did this between this one and this one. Then you would do the next image, the closer image after that, and closer, so you get to the very end. Now, what if you wanted to come out of it? So if we go to that other timeline, you can see that when I got to the closest one, this is the last layer. I zoomed, this is the last layer. Now I zoomed back out all the way to the end, right? And it gives you that really cool, nice, smooth zoom look. So the way you do that is you just take these cuts here. You can see these cuts, and you put them back to back to back. So this one would have this cut right here. You can see this cut is going from here to here, but this is just a picture, right? It's this picture. It's this picture. I just have it going from out to in. Well, I just take this here, I copy it, and I paste it at the end, but I remove the keyframes, these orange keyframes, right? So you got to find them. You got to find these orange keyframes. So make sure this is highlighted orange, click on the front, and then if you click here, it'll take the keyframe off. And then you got to find the next one, and it should be here, and then you click that again, and now you would just have a static image that looks like this. It'd just be static. So then from there, you would zoom into this section here, zoom into that section here, like there, click on the keyframe, and then go to the end of this, right here, and then zoom all the way out, and then click on the keyframe, and then that would give you the zoom out look. And then of course you would do that for that one, then you would do the next layer zooming out, then you do the next layer zooming out, then the next layer zooming out, and then this final layer zooming out, and it ends with a nice smooth, soft zoom out. So you can see how it's still zooming out, but softly, very softly. So then the whole thing looks like this. And there you go. That's all you need to know to create this very cool zoom in effect.